Welcome back to today's video. Today is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and today we are going to be talking about the Virginia governor's race and Elon Musk now wading into a battle between Abigail Spanberger, a former congresswoman who's running as the Democratic nominee for governor in this state, Elon Musk, who has been a longtime and major presence of the 2024 presidential election on behalf of the Republican Party, giving $70+ million of his own money alongside all the money he raised under his political action committee to elect Donald Trump and Republicans across the ballot and across the United States in the last cycle, now seems to be interested in getting involved in the Virginia governor's race with less than 2 months to go, roughly a month and a half out from the 2025 Virginia elections here. Elon Musk, who is recognizable as one of the most unpopular names in American politics, seems like he wants to get back on the good side of the Republican Party and seems interested, at least at face value, in the Virginia governor election. Now, if you don't remember, Elon Musk fell out of popularity towards the time that Donald Trump began his second term in office. Leading into the election, Elon Musk largely had an okay net favorability rating. By the time we had reached election day, his numbers were about +1 nationwide. But looking at how far they have fallen, today he's at negative 17.8% on average and recently hit a low point last month of negative 24%. The favorability ratings here aren't great for Elon Musk, and they certainly aren't beneficial or helpful to any Republican running in a state that already voted for Kamala Harris in the last election. Looking at the 2024 cycle, Virginia went to Kamala Harris by a margin of roughly 5.6%. It was a good margin, but not as great as it was for Democrats in the 2020 election, but it gave them something to work with in the upcoming 2025 cycle. Recognized in all of this, Virginia is one of the few states that has a gubernatorial race this cycle, and that's the reason why Elon Musk is targeting it. Now, looking at what actually encouraged him to even speak out about this race in the first place is that there was a question asked to Abigail Spanberger about Virginia's transgender bathroom policy. Now, thinking about how much this was present in the 2024 election, Elon Musk absolutely had a hand in that on the side of Donald Trump and the Republican Party, but also thinking, too, about why he might want to get involved again is because right now we have found that Elon Musk, who has largely been absent from the spotlight since May of 2025, seems like he wants to get back into it. We saw him, on a variety of different ways, really rebound in his opinion on the president over the summer, really crashed out, decided that he was going to start his own political party. He was going to move forth, trying to mitigate the amount that the Republican Party gained in the 2026 midterms. And we saw it really as retribution against the president of the United States, who largely axed him out of the primetime spotlight, seeing that he was unpopular and dragging down Donald Trump's second administration with him. Now, thinking about an actual electoral example of how Elon Musk did a lot of damage to the Republican Party, you look no further than a state that Donald Trump won in the last presidential election, the state of Wisconsin, which voted for Donald Trump by 0.9% on the presidential ticket. In Wisconsin, just months later, there was a Supreme Court race between a Democrat and a Republican, to which Elon Musk bankrolled tens of millions of dollars in favor of the Republican candidate in this state. And what did Democrats do? They made him the #1 person to attack. It wasn't the Republican nominee for Supreme Court in this race. It wasn't Donald Trump. It wasn't J.D. Vance. And it certainly wasn't any other Wisconsin Republicans. Who it was Elon Musk, who in this race tried to buy the race in favor of the Republican Party and ultimately collapsed. The race went wildly in favor of the Democratic Party. Susan Crawford defeated Brad Schimel by a margin of over 10 points in a state, again, that Elon Musk, who put a lot of money and time into this race. When you take a look at what actually ended up happening, was that it ended up backfiring on the Republicans in this state, who we saw that at the initial first glance started out in a very competitive position, but by the time we had reached the election, Susan Crawford came out ahead by a tremendous amount. And looking at the districts that Susan Crawford won, 2 of the districts that she won were currently held and are currently held by Republicans in the state of Wisconsin, suggesting that if Democrats get back to a point like Susan Crawford's victory in the 2025 cycle, that in 2026, they may be on track to flip 2 additional House seats in the state of Wisconsin. But we're sort of losing the plot here. I want to reorient back to Elon Musk and the state of Virginia because it feels as if that this involvement could only do more damage to Winsome Sears in this state, Elon Musk is the last name that you want to be advocating on your behalf, positioning themselves in opposition against the Democratic nominee, because Elon Musk is largely who many voters in the state of Virginia feel is responsible for the Doge cuts, for the decisions that had very tremendous impacts. The firing and the layoffs of thousands upon thousands of Virginia federal workers who were working in Washington, D.C. and the surrounding areas, that upon Donald Trump implementing Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk into Doge, lost their jobs. And these are things that very much have been center focus on the 2025 race. Big thing here is that Winsome Sears, the reason why she has been really dropping in polling data and the way that voters view her is because the way she has engaged on things like the budget cuts, on things like the federal layoffs, do not seem to resonate with voters in the same way that maybe somebody more talented like Glenn Youngkin would be able to walk that line. A recognition of the very serious impact that Donald Trump's second administration has had on the state, and he's already recognized as such. He's a popular governor, but he is unable to run for re-election as dictated by the Virginia Constitution. But again, getting back to this point and looking at it from that perspective, Winsome Sears is already in a bad place, right? She is unequivocally going to lose this election as it stands today. And I could not see further of a reason to try for her to engage with Elon Musk in this race, because if he's unpopular nationwide, in a nation that voted for Donald Trump in the last cycle by 1.5%, you can only imagine what his numbers look like in the state of Virginia. And whether or not he makes this decision, which oftentimes this is the beginning of when he decides that he's going to financially back the Republican nominee, he's going to go down to the state and hold campaign rallies. These are things that Elon Musk actively decides to do, and often is inspired by fringe social media posts that really spur into action. A billionaire, near trillionaire, honestly speaking, but a billionaire who has invested a lot of money already in American politics and might be trying to find his way back in this election cycle. And so we will see what happens in the state of Virginia. I honestly have looked at this and said, for a while, Elon Musk has not been at the top of mind for many voters, because the Trump administration very clearly saw that the direct impact of him electorally was extremely negative. And like us, they have people in the White House who look at this data and say, wait a minute, Elon Musk isn't driving us the numbers that he used to. When he endorsed Donald Trump, his unfavorability rating was less than 40%, and he was more favored than unfavored nationwide. I mean, you saw massive legions upon legions of voters changing their mind because Democrats rightfully were able to capitalize on the negative PR that Elon Musk was giving the Trump administration. The Trump administration likewise recognized this moment too and decided that they were going to axe him out of the spotlight. That is why Elon Musk never ended up back in the Trump administration. And then they had their huge fallout. Elon Musk tweeted out that Donald Trump was in the Epstein files. It became a whole thing. He broke off from the Republican Party, decided that he was going to found his own political party. But again, is a huge fan of J.D. Vance and has maintained that even through all the, administration beef between Musk and Trump. We are now finding that Elon Musk looks like, at least on face value, whether it is sitting with the president at Charlie Kirk's memorial and funeral, whether it is engaging with GOP politicians online in the way that he used to, and whether it is this most recent decision to wade in on issues that are not impacting Elon Musk, but also are in a way some of the most salient ones for Republicans that really, really were some of the top of mind for Republican voters in 2024. Not for every voter, but for Republican voters in 2024, Elon Musk getting involved in this seems to be an indication, at base value at least, that he is very interested in how this race ends up, and he might actually invest and act on said interest to try to boost Winsome Sears. But I think that the immediate reaction here, that I think we might see wrongly taken away from Winsome Sears and her campaign, who has been begging Donald Trump for a full-throated endorsement in this race and has been asking him to come down to the state of Virginia, travel outside of the district, and campaign alongside her. She's not someone who strikes me as having the best political instincts, without a doubt. She was carried across the finish line in 2021 by Glenn Youngkin, and I don't imagine that, in 2025, if she is to win, which she won't, because the numbers here don't make sense. But in the 5% chance that she does win the governor's race, it will be not on her and her political abilities. It will be on everybody else having to have collapsed in the race, which is exactly why we really don't see that happening. But again, Winsome Sears is the type of candidate who has been publicly tweeting and press release after press release, statement after statement, asking the president, who lost this state not just once, but lost it in 2016, lost it in 2020 by over 10 points, to come down to this state and advocate on her behalf. What did Glenn Youngkin do in 2021? Well, it was very obvious. Donald Trump wanted to be involved in this race because he saw the direction that the race was going. But Glenn Youngkin said, no thank you. He knew that if he campaigned alongside Donald Trump, the person who lost this state by 10 points the year before, his odds of victory would diminish tremendously. And so at most, there was a virtual presence of Donald Trump at a campaign rally, but they never appeared alongside until after Glenn Youngkin became governor. Obviously, once he became governor, he became more, in that MAGA world and pro-Trump, and advocated for him in the 2024 primary and, of course, the general election. But leading up to that moment, he knew that they were coming off of January 6th, all of these different things, and he was trying to make this a more Virginia-focused campaign, whereas Winsome Sears does not have that foresight to see that if she campaigns alongside Donald Trump, and by extension now, Elon Musk, and that's the point I'm getting at here, this could end up doing in her bid even further than where it is right now. Because if Elon Musk, mark my words, if Elon Musk goes to campaign in Virginia for Winsome Sears, add 2 points to Abigail Spanberger. It is that clear cut. Because voters of any state who have felt the direct impact of Elon Musk's involvement in the United States government and Donald Trump's second administration, it is the state of Virginia. And based on where the trend lines have already been showing, they're not great for the Republican Party. Spanberger is up by 7.1% on Real Clear Politics. On Decision Desk HQ, she's up 9.4%. On Race to the White House, she's up 9.6%. And in the most recent Christopher Newport University poll, which does a number of polls across the state of Virginia, has her up by 12. The last time they released a data point was in January of this year, before Donald Trump had been inaugurated. Do you want to know what those numbers said? They said that Abigail Spanberger led by 5, a narrower margin than what Kamala Harris had won the state of Virginia by in the 2024 election. And so thinking back to how much has changed, the numbers have already gotten worse for Winsome Sears, and this intrusion into a race after largely being absent from the American political scene. Obviously, still providing commentary on his own pages, trying to be as relevant as he can, but this one in particular, I think, would land very poorly amongst the average Virginia voter. And looking at who's inspired, who's likely to turn out in the midterm elections, in this election, in off-cycle and special elections, it certainly is not voters who view Elon Musk favorably. It is voters who are angry, who are upset with the current state of politics, who see Donald Trump as this figure who's driving America in the wrong direction, and by extension, the Republicans that run alongside him and praise him on the campaign trail. And that's exactly what's happening here in the state of Virginia, and Elon Musk seems like he wants to jump on what is already a doomed campaign, and should he decide to do so, would only further doom it. So keep your eyes peeled in Virginia to see what Elon Musk and other Republicans decide to do in this race. Donald Trump has given a half-cracked endorsement of this race, saying, sure, you can expect me to endorse Winsome Sears, but it's very different. Even when it was Youngkin who actively rejected that endorsement as much as he could, being respectful as the Republican nominee, very masterful too in terms of the actual result there. But what you have found then was that Youngkin played his cards right. Winsome Sears really wants Donald Trump's help, because there are two sides of this that we have seen where Winsome Sears has angered huge portions of that MAGA Trump electorate, where they have looked at this and said, we don't like you, Winsome Sears, because you defended Ron DeSantis. You did not endorse the president when he ran for re-election until after he had become the nominee. So there's a lot of different things here that really put people on edge about Winsome Sears. On the same time, her already viewed and perceived association with the president has already made it so a lot of these independent and swing voters, even some that voted for Trump in the last cycle, but now have family members who no longer have jobs because of who Donald Trump has put in, Elon Musk, who's now coming to the defense of Winsome Sears online. It's all this perfect storm that seems to be benefiting one political party, and a lot of it, I really do think, is lack of political instincts and the lack of political wit to understand exactly how toxic some of these names are to your brand. And Elon Musk isn't making it any easier as he gets involved in this race, which might actually end up with further involvement that could only doom Republicans even more in a state that's trending in a very bad direction for their political party. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter. At the bottom left of the screen, there's also a Discord server for you to go ahead and join. On the screen, there's a video for you to watch, then a playlist for my 2025 election analysis videos. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all later today.